So someone says, hey, doc, what about eye pressure, post-laser surgery, using drops? What can I do? Do I have to use these things the rest of my life? You know, eye pressure is an interesting thing. And here's the deal. There's many therapies that you can do that are really effective. So one of them is an old, it's an acupuncture trick, really. You create a vacuum or pressure. Actually, I'm trying to think which one I want to teach you. Let's do a cranial one.
Okay.
So a cranial technique you can do. You take this little part of your hand here, and you're going to place that on the inner eye, on the eyebrow up in here. And then there's a bone behind the back of your ear, right here, this big boy, the mastoid bone. Okay? So you put one hand here, one hand there, and all you're going to do is you're going to inhale and squeeze them together with about 5 pounds of pressure, and then let it go. And you repeat that 3 times total. Then switch and do the other side.
Really?
The cranial bones are really funny. When you're a baby, they have the little fontanelles, right? The little soft spots on their skull that you can feel.
Right.
Because they haven't fused together yet. But when they fuse together, they still do it like stitching, right? It's never really like a solid bone. It's a stitched bone. So the theory of this is that bone has a little bit of an innate ability to contract and relax, contract and relax. And because the eyes, the ears, and the sinuses are like hollow spots in a fishbowl, when the bowl gets pressure, the eye, the ear, and the sinuses either bulge out or get sucked back in like a vacuum. So you can do a simple pumping mechanism of the skull. And when you do that, it helps to release the pressure on the skull. Or anything attached to it. In this case, the eyes, the ears, and the sinuses. So you can do cranial type adjusting very gently like that to yourself, really. And as you're maneuvering these little things back and forth, you'll start pulling that pressure off of there. Now, the first time I was taught this, Dr. Victor Frank taught me how to do this. When Vic taught it to me, I had a little boy in my practice that had an eye like I do, really, right, that drifts. And his mom and dad were, and I called Vic up and I said, I'm first year in practice. What do I do with this thing? And he said, well, it's only been there for a little while. So the brain hasn't adapted to it like it had mine, right? I had 35 years of it. He said, you can change it. Have mom and dad do this exercise with this little boy 5 times a day, every day. And he goes, watch what happens. It wasn't 2 months. Kid comes in, eyes are perfectly straight. And I thought, are you freaking kidding me? How cool is that?
Yeah.
Right? And so I've known this technique now forever, and I share it with parents every time they have a child come in that has an eye issue or something like that. So in this case here, where you have a pressure issue, it makes sense that if you could maybe put a little pressure to that, it might take some of that internal off of it and allow that eye pressure to bleed away a little bit. It'd be worth trying, I think.